question. So what is AI? So artificial intelligence is an attempt to get machines to do things that we would normally call human intelligence. So they call it artificial intelligence, but it's really meant to mimic a human. But there are not all artificial intelligence is mimicking a human. Some of it behaves very intelligently, but it's not doing it at all the way a human does it. And sometimes we don't want it to do the way humans do it because humans make mistakes too. So there's different ways to approach it. A big distinction to recognize is there's a difference between strong AI or general AI and weak or narrow AI. So for a long time, for 4 decades, there have been narrow AI programs that can do things like play chess, much better than anyone in this audience at this point. But all it knows how to do is play chess. And then there's other AI programs that do things like medical diagnosis. Those programs, many of them, are better than the average internist as well, but they can't do anything other than internal medicine. General AI or strong AI is that kind of intelligence that's general human-like intelligence, and they can do a variety of tasks. And that's sort of the holy grail for artificial intelligence research now. Bard and ChatGPT and those are starting to behave like general intelligence. You can ask them a question about anything and they'll give you an answer. They might lie about the answer, they might get it wrong, but it'll certainly attempt. So AI is getting closer to being general AI. There's some people that worry that we're going to hit the singularity when the AI becomes self-aware, which is a little bit different. So that would be a self-aware general intelligence, and that would be more like HAL or the Terminator or one of those guys. But we're not there yet. This doesn't matter a whole lot, but I thought I'd do a little bit of explaining things. Symbolic AI is approaching AI from logic point of view and a set of symbols. That was winning as the primary model in the 60s and 70s, even into the 80s. Now it's still done, but it's sort of been overshadowed by the last one. Machine learning is having the machine learn how to do new things, like from examples, where you give it, this is right, this is wrong, it goes through the set and learns how to do it, or uses purely statistical, unsupervised techniques. So there's a lot of machine learning that's not AI at all. Although all of the AIs use machine learning to become artificial intelligence. So there's a lot of machine learning approaches that don't look anything like humans, don't look intelligent, but they do really cool statistics and decision making. And then deep learning is deep neural networks, and that's what's behind things like ChatGPT and Bard and some of the others. So it's been in vogue for 20 years or so, but only in the last 4 or 5 have our computers gotten big enough and fast enough for it to be implemented at a large enough scale with enough data to start behaving human-like. So that's the one that most people are most excited about right now.
Hello, everyone. Woohoo! Thank you all for coming. If you can hear me, say woohoo! Okay, awesome. Let's go. All right, so I am also the DJ, so let me just pull up some DJ music. Oh, as a preface, I should say, hi, I'm an assistant professor of Library and Information Science, and I will be giving a talk, but before the talk, I am going to introduce a couple of topics via a melodic, okay, it's a rap, via a rap. So hold on tight, and here we go.
And what's your name?
Oh, yes. My name is Sarah Bratt, like a bad kid, but with two T's. Yes. Yeah. Loud enough? Okay. Ooh, too loud. Librarians. AI. Hold on to your smartphones. Let me tell you a story. Back in the day, in the beginning of time, we needed information to advance humankind. Gotta access info from way before, like medicine and maps and the bones of dinosaurs. Libraries were born to help us keep records as places of learning and communities of experts. The Library of Alexander and scrolls in ancient Greece. Libraries kept knowledge as it increased. Hey, fast forward to the next few centuries. We got machines that say, can I take your order, please? Our smartphones do math for us. Order groceries without a fuss. Hey Siri, hey Alexa, you say all the time. But when issues come up, who'll help with us, those guys? Who'll battle misinformation and pave the way? Who will lead the charge and fake news slay? Librarians, we're in the AI game. Librarians, more than internet fame. Librarians, yeah, we make those rhymes. Librarians, and dropping rhymes. Woo! This is the dance break, but if you want to chat, better bring your GPTs. You're going to need librarians to help you out with these. We stack up knowledge and digitize the past, turning dusty books into bites that last. We search and sift through the digital maze, cutting through the techno haze. No more shushing, we're on the cutting edge. With AI by our side, we will miss a pledge. Librarians, they are mighty. They are not Luddite. Because we're dropping knowledge, but we're also dropping mics. We can rhyme, so you better get psyched. Librarians, we're in the AI game. Librarians, more than internet fame. Librarians, we get people online. Librarians, but we're also dropping rhymes. Other rappers diss me, say my books are sissy. Whew. Why? Be more constructive with your feedback, please. People say we're old like Triceratops, but we say no, we got them teraflops. We can code, trap databases tight, organizing data and making wrongs right. So raise a toast to librarians and AI. We're going to reach for the infinite sky. In the world of words, they reign supreme. Organizing data, pulling every dream. Librarians, we're in the AI game. Librarians, more than internet fame. Librarians, we can make those rhymes. Librarians, and drop people online. Woo! Librarians, putting intelligence into the artificial since 1952. Probably before that, but yeah. Woo! Thank you. Aw, thanks for playing along.
Thank you.
Woohoo!
I don't want to have to sing.
That was beautiful. You all sang amazingly. And now, I am going to talk in a normal voice. Okay, back to Professor Sarah. Still me. That's actually a really good rap name. All right. And we're going to have some background noise as well. So, in addition to all the things that you just learned about librarians, I'm going to give you 10 other ways that librarians are using AI, although you learned about a couple just now. So, next slide. But before we get too futuristic, what are libraries? Anyone want to shout out? What is a library? Books, I heard someone say. Maybe that was me in my head. Yeah, sure. What are libraries? Well, makerspace, good one. Yeah. We're going to learn more. Okay, and I know I got librarians back there, so I know you know, so shush. Okay, so libraries we've got a couple different types. As we all probably know, we have academic libraries, such as the University of Arizona. But there's also different types of libraries. When I went to library school, at an I-school, an information school, I learned there's also public libraries, but there's also special libraries. What is a special library? Well, there's a wine library. Ooh, got to keep track of your wine. How are you going to organize that? There's also seed libraries for when we, seed libraries, fans in the house. And then also medical libraries. In every hospital, you need a collection of children's books, potentially, but also for organizing specifically medical knowledge. And then, of course, we have law libraries, a couple law librarians in the house as well. And in addition, we have museums and archives, which are types of collections that are related to libraries. So once we've gotten our kind of library definition out of the way, we can ask, what is AI? And what is artificial intelligence? Did I use AI to generate this image? Yes. I did. Yes, I did. I used Firefly, and it was really fun, so you should try that out. So Brian gave us a wonderful definition and overview, but artificial intelligence, I wanted to give some examples. This is basically a theory and development of computer systems that is simulating a type of human intelligence. Even theorists right now are really grappling in a debate about what does it mean to be intelligent. That's, we're not always intelligent all the time. But what does it mean for a machine to have consciousness, to be intelligent, to be sentient, to do human-like things? I have a strong attachment to my phone, so you could say that there is some kind of interaction relationship going on there. And then robotics, computer vision is another example. And of course, LLMs, ChatGPT, who has heard of that? Yeah, woo! As well as traffic cameras and the like. So now we've got our definitions out of the way. What are the ways that librarians are using AI? Well, really cool stuff that you've probably encountered in your daily lives as well. So in academic libraries, we have librarians using really cool things like library assistants. Here, we can see a robot. This is a virtual assistant in Pretoria, South Africa library that can answer over 2,500 questions and can also tell you, navigating around the library, where the, say, restroom is. Very useful. This software continues to be updated as well. So beyond academic libraries, we also have AI use in public libraries. So we have chatbots. Who here has used a chatbot at a, yeah, lots of chatbots out there. And these you can see all over the place. They're getting more commercialized as well. So libraries are using them, but you'll see these across many different industries. And so chatbots, and then we can also see, whoever said makerspace, you got it, over there. So there's also art and engineering makerspaces. These are becoming infused with artificial intelligence, such as microchips and other ways of the engineering behind artificial intelligence. And as well, we have, virtual reality. So we have a couple scholars in the audience who look at virtual reality in libraries. And this could include augmented reality as well. So you can do things like simulate a travel experience, or if you'll click to the next one, I will, or you can train for, let's say, a driver in a more safe environment. Also, NASA is doing things with education with virtual reality environments using real footage from, for example, Mars. Super cool. And then in museums, similarly, augmented reality and digitizing rare materials. Who here has something special that they would love to take out and show the world, but if you touch it, it will disintegrate because it's your mom's old book? We know that we all have a lot of these delicate materials, right? But by digitizing them and doing some imputation through AI, we can better inspect these delicate artifacts. So that's something cool that museums are doing with AI. Oh, and yes, across all of these different environments, we can see some interesting shared traits. This includes improved search results. Yeah. Who has noticed a little bit of personalization in their Google results? Yeah. How does it know me so well? Well, a lot of that is drawing on these massive amounts of data to train such that it can personalize results. And it's not all surveillance. A lot of it's surveillance, but not all of it. A lot of that is to customize for a particular person and their information needs. As well, you get these personalized recommendations, like I was saying, but you'll also see this in medical contexts. So finally, this is a way to do intelligent resource management. don't worry about the word soup. Basically, the idea is that you can help with cataloging. Let's say you have a rock. Oh, and the University of Arizona wants to know, what kind of rock is this? Well, you can use images of other rocks to infer that it is a gray rock with lots of spiky bits. Oh, maybe that's any geologists in the house? Igneous rock. There you go. So, given this, lots of applications of AI in libraries. And the big takeaways, apart from, yes, you can hire me for your next big event to do a rap, it will the same one, so disclaimer. Libraries have a lot of promise for being the core for presenting a lot of technologies in AI, some of them including the librarians that are not only going to be adopting AI, but also developing AI. As well, librarians, in some of the research that we're doing at the iSchool, have been shown to be using a suite of AI. They're not just using ChatGPT, they're using these multiple tools in ways that are very sophisticated together. As well, librarians that are responsive to community needs. What do communities look for when they're using AI? And maybe you have some of those too, so would love to chat further about that. And with that, I think this is my cactus slide. Yes. And that is all we have. Looking forward to chatting with you more.
Thank you, thank you. My name is Tyler Millhouse. I'm a assistant professor of practice in the iSchool. I teach the AI class and the data ethics class. So I'm a philosopher by training, but have done a lot of coursework in AI and machine learning as well. So I try to blend that in my courses, and when I talk about data ethics, bring out both the philosophical and technical dimensions of AI. All right, if you hit the next slide there. So I'm going to be talking about AI and copyright, and most people who are concerned about this are thinking about generative AI. And I want to just give you a sense of what that was. I mean, the reason we call it generative AI is because it generates stuff. It generates images or text or sound.
Another train.
And or train sounds, perhaps. We'll just wait for 1 second. There does seem to be a second train.
Going the other way.
Going the other direction. It looks like a passenger train, so I think it will be a little bit shorter. All right. Okay, not so bad. So generative AI systems, of course, generate things, pictures, text, sound, etc. And the way they do this is, like many machine learning models, they have tons of data, and then they learn from that data. In this case, they learn what real images look like, as opposed to, say, this garbled mess over here. This is a picture of my dog, Juniper, who I love very much and put into all my presentations. And this is some random noise. And, you know, real images have a certain look to them, right? They don't look like garbled nonsense, right? They look like images of things, people, places, etc. And these models learn what they look like. Get the next slide. And so one thing they do that's cool is not just learn what these things look like, not just be able to tell them apart from fake images or nonsense, right? They learn which images are more probable than which other images, and they let us draw, almost like rolling dice, images from the space of all possible images that are more likely than not. And they can also learn sort of a conditional representation of which images are more likely than not. They can learn what images are most likely to go beside, say, a particular caption. And then this allows users to supply this caption or this description, what we typically call a prompt, and then the AI will generate a whole bunch of images that are likely to follow that prompt, or likely to appear above that caption. And so, can you go back 1 second, sorry. So all the art in this is generated by AI, by the way. And for this one, I put oil paintings of dice in the style of Matisse, and I got this picture. So that's what it came up with. It came up with like 5 different things. Again, this is sort of a semi-random process, but this is the one I thought looked the coolest. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about copyright. Now, I'm not an attorney. I'm primarily an ethicist, so if you go out and apply this in your own life, your mileage may vary on a legal front. This is not legal advice. But basically, when a human being creates a work of art, they automatically acquire a copyright in that work, with some exceptions that we'll talk about. And that gives them the exclusive right to copy it, to distribute it, to display it, and to perform it where that's applicable. And they also have the exclusive right to make works that are derivative of that work. Now, there are some exceptions. If you're working for a company and they have you write up something for part of your job, they probably own the copyright to that. In other cases, there's like special commission. If you commission an artwork under certain circumstances, the commissioner might own the copyright. And there's also exceptions for fair use. If I'm writing a criticism of some book and I think, wow, the dialogue is really terrible in this book, I can include a quote from that under fair use to exemplify what I'm talking about in my review. So what questions come up when we think about AI and copyright? Well, there's lots of questions, but the one I want to focus on today is who should hold a copyright when a work is created by an AI system? And I think there's several options, right? One is maybe no one should hold the copyright. Maybe the work should remain in the public domain for anyone to freely use, sell, copy, whatever they want to do. It could also be given to the AI system. It could also go to the company that designed and trained the AI system. It could go to the people who authored all those millions of images of training data that the system used. Or it could go to the clever person, in this case myself, who came up with the prompt for the AI system. So what's the current policy? The current policy, and if you want to look up this article by the Copyright Office, it's way less boring than it seems. It's very interesting. But the current policy is that no one has a copyright in these images. They're part of the public domain. So I want to go through these options and talk about why we might or might not favor these options and what some of the issues are that come up, and then give you my general thoughts about how we should think about these things. Because I think people don't think about them maybe in quite the way they should, or at least they leave out an important consideration. All right, actually I'm not quite ready for that one yet. So the first option is that the AI system should hold the copyright. But typically, AI system, actually not typically, always, only a human can hold a copyright in something. Now there's a famous case that dealt with this. You may have seen this image of a monkey before. This was not taken by a person. It was in fact a selfie taken by this monkey. The photographer had left his camera somewhere. The monkey picked it up and taken the picture. This picture became very popular, and of course he wanted to monetize that popularity. Unfortunately for him, right, the monkey had taken the picture, and so no copyright could attach. And so a person has to be involved in conceiving and executing the work so that they could be the subject of that copyright. And it also rules out the company, right? Even though a company might gain a copyright in the work that you produce as part of your job, you have to be a person producing that work for that to work, right? So in this case, even if the AI were conceived of as an employee of the company, they're not a person, so they're not going to be able to generate a copyright in that work. All right. So if we wanted to change that, we could change that. We could change the law. But we'd probably want to do so on the basis of determining that these AI systems are actually like human beings or analogous to human beings in the respects that we care about for the purposes of saying someone deserves a copyright in the work that they've produced.
Do you mean like a corporationist person?
No, well, that's a complicated. He asked about corporate personhood. That's a complicated issue. I can't get into that now. I already prepared way too many slides. Okay. So we've ruled out a couple of these. I want to go on to the last two. All right. So perhaps you should give the copyright to some or all the people who've authored training data. But that presents some practical problems, right? I mean, who do we give them to? Like which ones? Like Matisse, who I put in that last prompt? Somebody else? How can we determine credit? These systems draw on a really wide range of training data, and while in some cases you might be able to identify specific inspirations or sources or whatever, in other cases it's learning something general by taking a little bit from everything. Right? Also, how would this collective ownership work? Like if I generated these images and wanted to use them in my talk, who do I go to license these images? There's some practical problems with this idea. But even if we don't grant copyright protections in the work created by these AI, the people who created the training data, much of which is copyrighted, most of which is copyrighted, they could be entitled to compensation. And there's several lawsuits that are underway trying to argue that fact. Some by Getty Images, and then a couple of class action lawsuits by visual artists and by programmers. So one of the concerns they have is just that their copyrighted works that appear in the training data will be directly replicated. So in the Getty Images case, they basically were trying to come up with clever prompts, and if they came up with the right prompt, out pops an image that's weirdly like the image that was used in the training data that appears in their database. Right, so that's one set of concerns. Another set of concerns has to do with derivative works, right? And it's the artist lawsuit, not the Getty Image lawsuit, that really emphasizes this. And what they say is that these works that are created by AI are actually derivative works. And in copyright law, derivative work is one that's based on another work, but not transformative enough to count as an original work in its own right. So I can't write my own Star Wars universe novels. I have to keep those private and not sell them. But I could probably cut up promotional photos for a bunch of different sci-fi shows, put them together into a collage to express my love of space. That would probably be okay. But if I want to write that that Star Wars novel, and especially if I want to sell it or distribute it, I'm going to need to license the Star Wars intellectual property from Disney. All right. So one thing you might argue over and against these artists in this case is that human artists too are influenced by the things they've seen before. They're building on the things they've seen in the past. We're all standing on the shoulders of giants, you might say. And I want to return to this, right? But for now, we can assume that even if this analogy fails and artists entitled to compensation, that maybe giving them a copyright in those works that are created is just it's just not workable. All right. Yeah, that's right. And we're going to come back to all of these analogies. I hope you're seeing that each of these has a kind of analogy at its core that we're thinking about when we're evaluating the ethical, legal, and policy dimensions of these questions. All right, so the next one here is about the user who crafted the prompt for the AI system. Right. So authors are generally allowed to use tools, computers even, or AI tools to make art, but there's an important distinction that the Copyright Office draws between the role of a prompt creator and the role of someone using something simply as a tool. So they say this: when an AI technology receives solely a prompt from a human and produces complex written, visual, or musical works in response, the, quote, traditional elements of authorship are determined and executed by the technology. Users do not exercise ultimate creative control over how such systems interpret prompts and generate material. So what they're arguing is that there's not enough of an original contribution, specifically in terms of, as they talk about, a conception of the work to be produced, right, that's given by this prompt. It's really more of a suggestion, you might think, than, say, a plan. So I think one could argue that prompt engineering, and that is a real thing that people talk about, is required to bring the prompter's mental conception of the work to fruition. And then if that's true, if it really does take a lot of work, and now in my case I just put in like dice in the style of Matisse, so maybe not in my case, but in other cases maybe a very carefully designed prompt could actually be analogous to something more like a blueprint than a mere suggestion, right? So again, we have a question about an analogy. So again, in all these cases, the point at issue seems to turn, at least in part, on whether we buy into a particular analogy. So are AI systems like human artists in conceiving and executing works of art? Should we give them copyright? Sorry, I was a little hasty there. Are AI systems like human artists and how they build on their influences? Should we give, these artists some compensation for the works that are derivative based on them, or is this a novel work? And do prompters plan and conceive of a work in the way ordinary human artists do? Is the AI system simply analogous to a tool, right? How much is really being done by the prompters in these cases that's like or not like what people do when they conceive of a work of art they're going to execute themselves or by way of a tool? So personally, and just to give my opinion, you can take it or leave it, I think the answer to all these questions is no. Right? I don't think we should give AI copyright because they're analogous to human creators. I think we probably should give these artists some compensation for having their works used as training data. And go back one slide just so I remember the last one here. And I think we also should not give people copyright simply because they come up with a prompt. Right? But nevertheless, I want to urge you that whatever your opinion on these analogies might be, that you don't rely on that solely in terms of thinking about what the law should be about AI and copyright. Right? There's certainly an important sense in which copyright law is trying to protect the rights of artists to control the works that they produce. But right, we also give people copyrights for more practical and public interest reasons. Right? We want to incentivize people to produce works of art. It's not all about the rights of artists and the process by which artists create their work. And we also put limits on how long copyrights and patents last, right? Because we know that it's really valuable if people can share information freely and without cost. I love that Disney, right, has been at the forefront of trying to extend copyright protections when so many of their original animated films were drawing on works in the public domain, right? They rampantly exploited the public domain and then tried to shut it down for everybody else after they got theirs. Right? So there really are some strict limits that we put on this in the interest of public benefit, right? So copyright, I think, really should balance public benefit and the rights of the creators. And so I think in this case, I'd urge us to think about what are the wider consequences of giving AI-created works copyright protection in the same way we gave human-generated works copyright protection. So think about questions like, what will this do for the market of human-generated art? And who will be incentivized to become an artist? What will be lost if there are a lot fewer human artists out there in the world? Right? Now, in my view, these harms, I think, are actually, they outweigh the benefits. One second.
How open the pod bay doors?
As long as it quits honking, I think we'll be okay. All right. So, like in my view, I think the harms that are associated with giving the copyright for these works outweigh the benefits. And I think that's the best reason, over and against any of the answers about these analogies we have, for not giving copyrights in works that are AI generated. And so in short, I think we should really think less about whether AI generated art is really different from human generated art and think more about the consequences of treating them the same. All right, thank you so much.
All right, I am Jennifer Rochelle. I am also an assistant professor of practice at the iSchool. Shout out to my students who are here. Everyone gets an A. Just kidding. I'm not going to do a rap, sadly. I'm just going to tell you about my first failure as a lawyer. So when I moved to New York, it was for law school, and I moved in the middle of law school. Sorry, I have like a lot of animations. So I moved there, and I didn't know what I was doing, as a lot of people do when they move to New York. And I rented an apartment without any running water. I did not try to do this. The landlord just literally lied to us and was like, the water's gonna come on in like a couple of days. The city has to turn it on. So 2 weeks in, we were peeing in buckets and not very happy. And I called the city and I was like, where's the water? And they're like, actually, the pipes burned down in a fire. So there's not gonna be any water for like lots of years. At that point, we realized we needed to leave and get our deposit back and get our first month's rent. But of course, we weren't going to be given that. So being enterprising law students, we were like, aha, we're going to get justice. We're going to sue our landlord. And that's what we tried to do. So we went to small claims court to get our deposit back and our first month's rent. So we were poor law students, so we also needed that to rent our next apartment. And we were served almost the next day with a counter lawsuit for $16,000 in district court in New York, and it was for fraud. And our landlords had countersued us just to, allege something that they knew that we were going to have to take maybe years of our life to defend. Long story short, we did not get our deposit back, but I now have to explain to each bar that for each state that you're barred in, you have to go through a process to get a license. And I now have to explain why I've been sued for fraud each time I get barred in a new state, so that's fun. You can go to the next slide. So the point of this is that you don't have a right to an attorney in this country. And it's expensive to have an attorney. You can be sued, you can have a really good reason to sue, but you have to pay for an attorney. Unless, of course, you commit a crime and you're possibly going to go to jail for over a year and you are considered indigent according to your state, then maybe you have the right to a public defender. I just had to throw up that picture because I used to be a public defender, so I can make fun of them. All right, next slide. So here are some statistics that are not great for the US. The first one being that 3/4 of all civil trial cases in the US, at least one litigant does not have a lawyer. And 90 to 95% of landlords are represented by lawyers in DC. This is a statistic from DC. And only 5 to 10% of tenants have legal assistance. In family law cases, DV cases, domestic violence cases, housing, and small claims matters, at least one party lacks representation of 70 to 98% of cases. So this, is what we all know. You get more justice when you have more money. You get less justice with less money. But the exciting thing about AI in the law to me is that maybe there is a chance for us to turn that around. So access to legal counsel is all of a sudden a possibility. Ignoring for the moment where we are currently, let's think about the future of AI, where AI could be trained on not just statutes and regulations specific to each jurisdiction, but also case law and new case law. Next one. So much so that someone with no knowledge of the law could ask a question and get solid legal advice. So I'm not just talking about like Googling a statute. I mean, this is the idea that all of a sudden, let's say your grandmother calls you. It's summer, it's Phoenix, and her air conditioning is out. And she says that it's so hot and her landlord won't answer her calls. What do you do? Maybe you would have Googled that previously and tried to figure out what to do. But with AI, there's a good chance soon in the future that you would know exactly what to do, and you would have a case-by-case step of the process. And not only would you have that, but the AI could also write a demand letter for you. And if the demand letter didn't work, then it could also probably file a complaint for you in court. And this is actually already the case with some AI firms that are out there, or legal AI firms. So this could make a huge difference in society. I'm being super idealistic right now, but just imagine. What if you needed to write a will or a trust? You could do that 10 minutes flat. What if you saw harm in your community? What if you were discriminated at work? What if your friend has an abusive partner and needs a restraining order? What if you have an Etsy site to go to Tyler's talk and your work is copied? What if there's a copyright violation? Well, you could use AI. What if you just simply needed a divorce? All of a sudden, you wouldn't have to pay an expensive divorce attorney. You could have that done just like that. So it could be really incredible. According to the Center for American Progress, equal access to legal representation in the U.S. in the United States justice system is critical to ending poverty, combating discrimination, and creating opportunity. All right, I was talking about people representing themselves, but what about legal aid organizations and nonprofits? Think of the amazing good that they could do. Right now, there's always much more need than there is the ability for lawyers to handle that need. So what if instead of taking 50 cases, an attorney could take 100 cases or 1,000 cases? It's really amazing to think about the possibilities. So it's super exciting. All right. I've been resoundingly positive, not just about the future of the legal services in this country, but also about human nature. I'll take the stars out of my eyes right now and talk a little bit about the current legal landscape because it's also pretty interesting. So we are in the first wave of the land of the legal startup. If you want to know the best forum to pick or what the judge is going to decide in your case, you can literally find that out. And these are companies that can do this. I'm not like advocating for these companies. I'm just having an example. So what if you want to sift through thousands and hundreds of pages of discovery of legal documents in an instant? There's a way to do that. Legal research that used to be in the hands of law librarians, AI can also do now. What about drafting legal contracts? You used to have to pay a first year or second year associate to do that. AI can now do that, probably faster and more efficiently. Even they have virtual receptionists for client intakes. And of course, we probably have all heard of Do Not Pay. You can appeal tickets with a robo attorney and even dispute trademark. So there is a lot that you can do right now with AI and the law. But there is also widespread panic and fear in the legal industry, as in a lot of industries, that AI is going to replace jobs. However, as much as there is talk about that fear, there is also an equal response that says, look, AI is not going to replace human judgment. Juries don't want to hear a closing argument from Alexa. They want to see a real person delivering it, complete with idiosyncrasies and mistakes. They want humanness to humanize the clients. And similarly, AI cannot make a split-second decision to throw a client on the stand to testify because the mood has shifted in the courtroom, or the jury looks bored or outraged. At least not yet. Maybe it can sometimes so. So lawyers don't use likelihoods or odds alone to win cases. They also use creativity and judgment and relationships, really, to get good outcomes for their clients. Also, thinking about right now, lawyers have the duty for due diligence, which means that anything that is put out or is output by an AI needs to be reviewed by a lawyer. Because, as Brian said earlier, AI still hallucinates, right? So AI still makes up stuff, and it can make up cases, and it has made up cases, and attorneys have gotten in trouble for citing made-up cases. There's also concerns about data privacy. An attorney has the duty to safeguard client information and can even be disbarred or have their license taken away if they are found to be careless with that duty. So I've talked about a positive look at AI in the future, and I've covered a little bit of the current landscape, but now let's plunge into a more dystopian look at AI and the law, because my title was Help, my attorney is an AI, so we've got to get there. So, ChatGPT, we've all heard of it, so we're just going to compare ChatGPT 3.5 and 4, because those are the two versions that really have made, were like when the average person became aware of these and started to use them. So, ChatGPT is free, and 4 costs money. I don't exactly remember how much it is, but there's a subscription-based fee. 4 is versed in more languages. 3 is limited to text analysis, while 4 can analyze larger pieces of text and can also analyze images, which is pretty cool. So 4 can actually look at a meme in a different language and tell you what that means, even with the political context. 4 can mimic a tone created by a user and can be personalized to fit a style or a requested tone, and 3 cannot. Going on to just some testing outcomes, for the AP Calculus exam, GPT 3.5 received a 1, which is not a good score. It's a score from 1 to 5. And GPT 4 received a 4. In a simulated bar examination, 3.5 was at the bottom 10% of test takers, and 4 was in the top 10%. And of course, there's time limitations, right? So 3.5, I think, is up to January 2022, and 4 is up to April 2023. Don't quote me on this, I could be a little bit off. And there's going to be ChatGPT 5 that's going to be, even further and even more expensive. So why am I saying all of these facts? The reason is that, like so much in our society, paying money gets you more access, gets you better capabilities and more versatility. So going back to my hopeful example of a tenant being able to bring a case against the landlord in court for wrongful eviction, great, they're going to have AI to do that. But the tenant will have the free version, and the landlord, instead of paying a lawyer, is going to pay ChatGPT for version 6,000. They're going to be able to outfile and outmaneuver the free legal version. So let's take this dystopian view a little bit further. Now let's really talk about if your AI was your lawyer. So next slide. So what if the state decided that instead of giving you a person, a public defender, they were going to just give you an AI? And look, there's good arguments for that, right? The state's like, it's more efficient, it's better for the taxpayer, the AI can take more clients and do a better review of the facts. And so we're really back to the title now, Help, my attorney is an AI. But let's go even further than that. Not only is the public defender an AI, but the judge is an AI too. Or rather, there's just simply AI. There's all three: prosecutor, defender, judge, all of them. Just put all the facts in, and the AI will tell you if they are guilty. I mean, there's already the technology to see where you are at all times, right? Because what's the one thing that everyone probably has on them right now? Your phone. Your phone knows where you are, and that location can be subpoenaed by a court. And there's cameras everywhere, CCTV, with facial recognition technology that's already used in most, if not all, law enforcement departments. Your location with your phone can be combined with your facial recognition technology, your text messages, your social media posts, your website browser history. All of this is recorded and cannot be erased. Your Uber ride here can be subpoenaed. So why do we need a human lawyer? When all you need is just to put all of the data around the crime into a large language model, and boom, a verdict. And then also the AI can immediately sentence you too. It can sentence you based on your personal history, your family history, your socioeconomic status, and your physical location. And if that sounds like a little bit extreme, that's where we already are. Sorry, I'm at 15 minutes, but we'll keep talking a little bit more. That's okay. We're already here. There's already been a case where someone has challenged their recidivism outcome based on an algorithm, and they were told that it was proprietary information and they couldn't challenge it in court, and their appeal was denied. So while it sounds extreme, it's kind of the landscape that we're already in. So I guess we've seen what happens with unregulated social media platforms, right? And I guess the point I'm trying to make is that we want to make sure that the same thing does not happen with AI. So I just wanted to talk really quickly, because this is kind of exciting. The EU just passed the EU AI Act last week, and it bans, it does a lot of things. It took I think 5 years to get passed. But some of the major highlights are that it bans AI using emotional recognition systems in the workplace or educational settings. It bans biometric categorization systems that infer personal characteristics such as religious beliefs, political opinions, or sexual orientation. Because yes, an AI can tell your political party just based on a photograph of you. It also has transparency requirements. So developers like OpenAI will have to provide summaries of the content that they train their models on. That goes to your talk, Tyler. So people will know exactly what it was trained on, and maybe those people can be compensated. And then also it has to identify AI-generated content as well. And then excitingly also, it has a high-risk AI use category. So that means that there will be laws for AI systems used to determine creditworthiness of loan applicants, evaluation of insurance risks. It won't be able to screen potential job or school applicants, or used by a judicial authority to research or interpret facts, or use an alternative dispute resolution. Since my time is up, I'm going to say, I think that I've given by the way, we don't have a US AI Act. Some states have passed laws. Arizona is trying to pass some laws right now, but there is no US AI Act. The FTC is making some movement towards stuff, and you can actually public comment. You can do a public comment on rulemaking right now. That's available to everyone here. So you could make your voice heard on deepfakes and AI impersonating and robocalls. So yeah, I think we have a really exciting future ahead of us, but also maybe a dystopian future. So I guess it's up to us where we're going to go from here. Thank you all so much.
Back in the day, in the beginning of time, we needed information to advance humankind. Gotta access info from way